Well, hello, welcome back. We are now moving on to signature number 4, and I have it all laid out. So I am using this as the base page, and it did come from the 12 by 12. Make sure I've got them going the correct way. And then I'm going to make a pocket down here. This lovely piece is coming from scraps, and I'm going to put a row of bling. This trimming here came out of the A4 as well as this. Now I'm just tacking this on the top so that it acts as a tuck so that you've got the pocket as well. So let's go ahead and let's get this much done. This is going to measure 8 1/4 across by your 8 3/4 in height. Hold on just a second. Now this pocket is going to measure at 3 inches by your 8 1/4. Now, if you want to trim it so that it's smaller, you can. If you want to use a different scrap, though there aren't very many that will go the width or the height of this, so I didn't want to trim this down by too much, but I think I did take a little bit off. So let's go ahead and let's get this put together, and then we'll work on the next step. And we'll slide that right in here, like so. On a little bit of glue. I apologize for my hand shaking. I don't know if you can even see it, but I sure feel it. I was out trimming some bushes and had the hedge trimmer going too long, so the muscles in my right arm and my hand are having a bit of a spasm. They don't like me working that hard anymore. Backing off about the distance of a gem because I want things to close up. And then I'll just pull these a little bit just so they balance in between. Okay, and then take the tape off this, and I'm going to just kind of put it at an angle. All right, so that's done. So we're going to move on to our next step, which is going to be playing with some of the large cutout cards. I have picked 2, but I'll get to those in a minute. This is going to measure at 6 inches by 5 1/2 inches, and you'll have a 1/2 inch score. I don't want this competing for the height here, so I'm going to pull this all the way to the top. And make sure I'm right up against that 1/2 inch score line. And then the same thing over here on the left side. It should be the same measurements. I'm at 6 by 5 1/2. Again, we have a 1/2 inch score. Then we're going to come right up here to the top snuggle right up to that score line. And there we go. So these should be sitting about 1/4 of an inch above your pocket so that when you open this up, they're not all competing for the same amount of space. So on the inside here, I went to the A4 papers and I trimmed out this side of it. So this will go on this side and this one will go on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these on, and this is where I have to squeeze something and my hand starts to shake just a little bit. And then we're going to swing over here and we're going to do the same. Wow, that really helps to spread the glue. Oh my goodness sakes. It's a good thing I'm not cutting anything. These are already cut. All right, so now here in the corners, I have made some diagonal cuts. I do believe these were 3 by 3. I can tell you here in just a second. Yep. You will cut a square that is 3 by 3 and then cut it on the diagonal. I am using skinny tape and I'm going to put this out here on the outside. And then I chose the pattern with the paper on it because it didn't really concern which direction the papers went. And I cut these, I do believe, at 2 and, see, that was 3 by 3, 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, and then I cut it on the diagonal. Now I'm putting on, oh, come on, hand. Some bling. And then I fussy cut out a couple of bells, and I'm just going to glue them right in place. Let me see, what am I doing here? Okay, get down there. All right, that one's done. Now we'll move over here, and this is the other half to the triangle that we just cut. And then here's my other piece of paper. And then this was the other bell that I trimmed out. Good grief. This one fits a little bit better. All right, so the inside is done. We're going to close. And then these are the two that I chose to use. So you have this set of windows and you have this set of windows. And just going to square them up and put them on there. Okay, that one's in. And then this one. Okay, so the first part of this is done. And it really doesn't matter which one's going to be on the top. So let's move to, oh, I didn't put tape on this. I forgot an element right here. I just saw it. In the cutouts, there's this house, toy house, I do believe, and that's what I'm putting right down here. I backed it onto some cardstock, and I'm just going to set it approximately in the center. Okay. So this, your right side panel, is going to measure in at 7.5 inches. And if you're using dies or trims, you want to get down to about 7.25 when you're done. Or just trim it to 7.25. By 8 3/4, which is your height, you're going to have a 1/2 inch score and then a 5/8 of an inch score. And we are going to bring our work right up to that 1/2 inch score mark. All right. And then the left side panel, it's going to measure 6 across by 8 3/4, and by the time I got done, this was at about 5 5/8. Again, bring it right up to the 1/2 inch score line. All right, now, if I remember which way I was going, it's going to be left over right. So when we set our magnets, that's what we need to take into consideration. Put this there. Then we're going to fold that over. All right, Now, on the inside here, one side of this has the toys, and I do believe it had the car image, but this is the side we're going to use. And I have trimmed it for both sides. Now I've got a magnet on this one, but I don't here, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Yeah, here's the car. And then down here in this pocket, we're going to make a little photo booklet. And it's going to have magnets on it, and then we're going to tape it off so that it can also act as a tuck and still giving you some stationary space here for a photo. So this piece, I didn't write the measurements. This is going to measure at 6 1/4 inches, scoring it at 3 1/8 by 3 1/2 inches. And this is the little card that I chose. And then let's go ahead and cover the inside of this. So I just took some of the scrap off of this paper and cut 2 pieces. And take the tape off, and I've used skinny tape because I want to make sure that we can use as much of this pocket as possible. Come in about 1/4, up about 1/4, and then you can set it in there. So then what we end up having here is a nice tuck, a spot for a photo, and then you've got a couple of photo mats in here. So now we're going to come over to this right side, but I am going to tape this one down because of my magnet. Burnish it from the reverse side because that skinny tape is on there kind of wonky. I don't want to ruin it any more than I necessarily need to. Okay, so I'm going to line this back up with my pattern. Okay, So I made another one. It's going to be a flip up and down. And I'm also creating this as a tuck, but I think I noticed I want to put this up here, which means I need to take this off, this bottom piece of tape, and move it to the top. Just a second, I'm trying to get this tape off my finger. Okay, so I'm going to move this up here. All right, so this will open this way, and the tuck will come up from underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and get this put on. And we'll get and again, I went to scraps and found a strip wide enough that was also long enough because I needed to cut two. Okay. I didn't put enough glue there, so I'm going to sneak in here, put some glue. I did that on both of these. Not enough glue around that magnet, so that paper is popping up. Okay, so I'm going to take the tape off. And I'm going to come in about a quarter, down about a quarter. So now the tuck comes up underneath this way, and you still have a spot here for a photo, and then this opens up this way. Okay, so it's right over left. All right, so this is the piece that I chose. And you can see I've done some fussy cutting. So this is the top piece that I chose. There's some cards down here along the bottom. And I came in here along this bottom seam right here. And then I cut in, and then I was able to cut everything out. This one, I ended up using my craft knife on. And it reinforced the reason why I want to start cutting, because my fingers just do not handle a craft knife anymore. There's arthritis. So I am seeking out seams that I can cut along, and then when you come in from the back side, you can tape them. But the first thing I do is I take something and I'll put the two pieces back together so that they line up, but then I will grab a hold of something while they're together, and I will burnish really hard along that seam. So that what it does, I don't know if you've ever really paid attention. I don't care how sharp your razor blade is on your paper trimmer. That paper is still going to have some edges to it. So if you merge the two, Let's say that these are the two. Then you're going to come in with something and you're going to burnish those so that you can push those fibers back in together. And I've noticed that it helps to hide that seam a lot. And then you just take tape right where that seam is. On the reverse side and close it. Because there's teeth in the paper. When you trim it, they go wonky. Okay, so I generally will glue around this. I want to be able to get into that magnet. I'm just really magnet phobia. I've had to rip too many out because of calculation errors. So it's, God, my hands. So it's, anyway, what I'm trying to say is I typically glue around this, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some skinny tape and I'm just going to make sure that some of the real critical points have tape on them so that they will stay down against the cardstock so that they're not lifting up. Okay, so let me turn this back over. So when you look at this, my seam is right underneath this black stamp. I went right across one of those white ones and you can't even see that it's there. Again, I push the two pieces of paper together, I hold them together, and then I just burnish like crazy to get the teeth in the paper to kind of come back together again. So do a sample cut, a sample trim, and then see if that doesn't, I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect all the time, but it's better than seeing a visible seam where you cut. And it helps if you will pick on something that already has a line because then it blends in. Does that make sense? Okay, so I need to take these off because I'm not going to be able to get back into them once I get this down. Oh, Charlie, you dumb. What in the world was I thinking? Oh, well, I wasn't. All right, so now I am going to line this up. Tack those down. I don't have that far enough up on the top. Okay, let's get this lined up here correctly. And I'm going to take this tape off here. I'm sorry I was off camera. I'm just picking the paper off the tape. Okay. And then I stuck these, ran a bunch of pop-up strips, and this will sit right back in its space. So I am going to start peeling and then you just put this right back where you cut it out from. Now we have a little bit of height here. We're going to close this, and I've done the same thing with the ornament. Is I backed them both here on some cardstock so they have a little bit of sturdiness, and then I put some pop-ups, and then that way this has a little bit of an element. I really wanted to cut this out, but I was not going to do that to you. And having said that, you don't have to fussy cut and trim any of this business if you don't want to. Okay, so we are done. Let's go ahead and let's get our tape on the back side of this, and we can get it in our album. After this, we only have one more signature to go, and it looks like I've got quite a bit of paper left. So I will be doing a small project with it. So if you want to play along on that, I'll have that video up here not too long after this. But you know, we haven't covered these. We'll see. So this will sit in here like so. Right to the end. Even top and bottom. Oh, come out of there. There we go. Okay, so we've got ourselves a couple of little tucks over here. We've got a big pocket. We've got a photo and a tuck, and then we've got a tuck, and then this one opens up that way. We're all done. Okay, last one's coming up. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.